Hello. So today we are going to start our notes on factoring polynomials. This is going to be a multi-part video series so that we can kind of chunk all the different factoring methods that we want to include in our notes. But I already got us started, so go ahead and copy this down as I'm talking, okay? So first of all, whenever I factor, I always want to start by looking and seeing if there's any possible way I can take out a GCF from my factoring because that will always make my process simpler. Okay, so it doesn't matter how many terms you have, you always want to see if there's a GCF that could be pulled out. So, for example, don't write this down, I'm just going to show you. If I have something like this, I can look at this and automatically recognize that a 2 can be factored out as a GCF of this polynomial. So when I do that, when I factor out that 2, I'm left with x squared plus 2x plus 6. And then I would just factor this piece. And that's a lot simpler because I took that GCF out. All right. So we're always looking to see if a greatest common factor can be pulled out. Then, depending on how many terms are remaining, these are all the different methods that I might use to factor. So if I have 2 terms, I might use something called difference of squares. If I have 3 terms, I might use the product sum method or the slip and slide method. And if I have 4 terms, I might use grouping. All right. So everything I'm showing you is just options. You can always take this and use it how it works for you. All right. But I'm just giving you a toolbox with tools in it, and then you guys can use the tools the way that you see fit. All right. But we're going to go ahead and start with our first method of factoring, which is when we have 2 terms. And it's a special case when we have 2 terms called difference of squares. So go ahead and write that down. Difference of squares. Okay. And this method is used in a very specific time. All right. When I have a binomial, which is 2 terms, right? Where 2 numbers are being subtracted, and then that binomial is raised to the second power. This is why it's called difference of squares. If you guys look at this, we have a difference in the binomial because we know that difference means subtraction. And we have a square, right? We have it raised to the second power. So this is not going to work, for example, if I have a sum of squares. I cannot use it for that kind of a binomial. It has to be a difference. Okay, so when I have this, when I see this binomial raised to the second power, this will factor to a minus b times a plus b. It's that simple. Okay, this will factor to a minus b times a plus b. So I'm just going to highlight this so that it'll stand out when I look at my notes. So for example, to give you guys an example of this, all right, if I had something like x minus 3 squared, I would factor it to x minus 3 times x plus 3. And that's it. And I'm going to make a note for myself that this will not work for sums like what we were talking about before. If I see a plus, if I see a sum, this is not going to work. All right, so we have our intro, we have our difference of squares method for 2 terms. Let's watch the next video to see how to factor 3 terms.